And so left-wing website, the Spin-Off, have released this morning, what the surge in populist nationalism means for Winston Peters and New Zealand First. And look, it's really a left-wing rant, worried. And of course, they've got that lovely image there. I mean, this image haunts the media because it's examples of basically the pushback against wokeness and lefty. That's Nigel Farage in the UK on the left, Pauline Hanson, who is polling unbelievably in Australia, Trump, and of course Winston. And in the article, it takes one pollster. So it takes Courier, which I thought was interesting that it used Courier because that's David Farrar and he's a National Party lobbyist. So, but anyway, that brown line is the election, and New Zealand First have just been going, well, you can see the trend. But this one's interesting, and I'm interested in your comment on this, Rodney, especially as an ex-ACT Party leader. The pink line is the ACT Party, and the black line is New Zealand First. And in effect, New Zealand First have become the Conservative Party alternative to the mainstream National Party. I mean, do either of those graphs surprise you?
No, not at all. And it'll get bigger. Winston will continue to rise and ACT will continue to fall. Got to admire Winston Peters. I mean, he was Trump before there was Trump. He was Nigel Farage before there was Nigel Farage. He was Pauline Hanson before there was Pauline Hanson.
That's a good point.
The longevity is astonishing. I think part of his success is that he says it but doesn't do it. So, like, you never saw him returning immigrants home. He sort of says it heading into an election and then falls asleep in government. But nonetheless, he's been tremendously successful, and I have to say I support his sentiment. And the left wing, of course, hate it with a passion because, sadly, they no longer speak truth to power. They've become propagandists for, the elite, for the existing politicians, for the status quo, and for, the UN and the World Health Organization. And they've completely forgotten about their readers and their customers who are, like me, annoyed. We don't like the existing order. No. We hate it with a passion. And the more we see of it, the more we hate it. What we've got now around the world is a lightning rod in the form of Donald Trump, because he stood up against the whole lot of them, won, and continues to be against them. And so he's powering up Winston Peters because we're seeing it in action and we're liking it. So Winston Peters will continue to go up. He's got this amazing position that he's in where he's like the best opposition MP. And he spent the first half of this term as Deputy Prime Minister, and now he's Minister of Foreign Affairs in Cabinet. So he's in an amazing position. Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, is exceedingly weak, and Winston Peters is basically criticising him and pulling it off. And
so why is in this graph, why the switch? Because David Seymour also has been calling it out, to be fair to David Seymour, and yet they're dropping. So why is this graph happening, do you think?
Well, talent. I didn't have the talent that David Seymour's got. He's got a lot more talent than me. But Winston Peters has got more talent than him. And it's just that talent of being able to get cut through,
the X factor,
establish the moment. He's superb at it. He's the best New Zealand has ever seen.
Yeah.
He's also not focused on delivery, like, say, David Seymour was. David Seymour was in there doing the work of government, whereas Winston Peters is doing, if you like, the showboating, would be the word to use. And he's fabulous at it. You can't beat him. And of course, no one. When Donald Trump is in another league, and he also delivers. So he's just, top dog in politics at the moment. But no, Winston's just supremely good at it. And I'm not doing that to be critical of David Seymour, because anyone in Parliament, as much as he annoys you, everyone in Parliament recognises that Winston has an exceedingly rare talent.
You were talking about just the fact that sometimes Winston gets in, but he doesn't deliver on some of the policies. In fairness, there is a difference in the system because Trump can come in, he can do executive orders, he has all this unilateral power. Sure, it gets challenged at times, whereas Winston's a bit like a mayor of a town. You can get elected mayor, but you still got to win over all the other elected officials around the table, don't you? So is that the difficulty? It's a different system. It's not quite the power that Trump has that Winston has. So he's still got to win over people, and that's quite difficult.
Yes, but you've got to try.
Right.
And Winston doesn't try. And I mean, think of this. He went into 2017 saying that getting rid of the Maori seats was a bottom line. Well, when you hear that, you know exactly what that means.
Yeah, he also went with Jacinda. So
you won't form a government with someone that won't get rid of the Maori seats. I should just correct you because we don't want to treat poor Mr. David Farrar poorly. He's not. You misspoke. He's not the lobbyist for the National Party. He's their pollster.
Pollster. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah,
correct.
You're right. And so
thank you for that. It's always good to get fact checked. We don't want to be fake news like CNN, do we, Rodney?
No, and I only fact check you because I know that you would you put truth over ego.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was interesting just with the Christian adherence because I saw this post come up just on New Zealand First just a couple of days ago, and it's Shane Jones saying our culture goes right back to the Enlightenment. It's within that context that you should see our Judeo-Christian heritage. And he says he's looking forward to campaigning on defending our culture. Is he positioning himself for the heir apparent to New Zealand First, do you think? Because, I mean, Winston's 80.
Oh, he very much so. Very, very much so. Of course, he should go back to Moses and Abraham. It's not just the Enlightenment. But no, absolutely he is. But no one's Winston. No one is Winston.
He's like your kindly uncle that you just love coming around for Christmas Day. That's the impression.
And even when you know he's telling a porky, he's got that grin on his face, and you think, yeah, that's Winston. Picture this. He's been an MP since 1978. Wow. Most of the voters weren't born when he was first an MP. He's had a couple of terms out.
So if he wins another term, he's going to have been in Parliament 50 years towards the end of the next term. Wow.
Well, he's had a couple of gaps, but yes, he was elected, of course, 50,
that's true.
50 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
And he's running against the system. You've got to admire it, right?
Exactly.
Because you couldn't, he was there before David Seymour was born.